In this video, we look at components of GDP both from the expenditure and the income side, and we look at the relationship between saving and investment. The definition of GDP from the expenditure side has four components. Each of them broadly corresponds to what type of agent is behind the expenditure. When we look at households, we look at all the expenditure they do on goods and services, and we call that private consumption. Now, there's only one exception, one type of good that we will exclude, which is residential housing. We will label investment a collection of expenditures, some of them done by companies, like structures, equipment, accumulation of inventories. Some are done by households, typically residential housing will be the purchase of a household. Some might be done by the government, like some of the infrastructure that gets built in a country over time. The government expenditures on goods and services is what we call government spending or government consumption. And finally, what the rest of the world buys, which we will call net exports, is going to be labeled as NX, and that's going to be the difference between exports and imports. Now, if we look at GDP from the income side, we know that GDP from the income side and the expenditure side should be broadly similar, but they're not identical. If you want to be precise, the difference between GDP and the national income, which we will call GNI, is these net factor payments, which are payments associated to factors that are located in a country different from where they come from. A couple of examples. One of our nationals is working abroad, sends some of his or her income back to the country. That will show up here with a positive sign. One of our companies is operating abroad and repatriate some of the profits. That will show up here as a net factor payment as well with a positive sign. Now, if we take the national income of a country, the national income of a country will go to our citizens, to our households, to the private sector, and they will use it for different purposes. Some of it will go to pay taxes. Some of it will go to buy goods and services. Now, because we're talking at the level of the household, this is something that we're going to call consumption. And then there's going to be a residual. Whatever does not get spent on taxes and consumption, that residual, we're going to call it private saving. So a definition of private saving, it's very simple. It's the income of a country minus private consumption minus taxes. Now, to have a complete picture of saving in the country, we're going to look at the government saving as well. And that's going to be equal to the revenues of the government, which we call taxes, and the spending, which we call government spending. Now, both of these numbers, private and government saving, can be, of course, positive or negative. So we can have that the private sector saves or borrows, we can have the government saving or borrowing. Now, let's put some of these together. Let's first construct a measure of national saving, which is going to be simply the sum of private and public saving. Now, private saving is national income minus consumption minus taxes. Public saving is taxes minus government spending. Now, in this expression, taxes cancels out, and we get something that is very intuitive. The saving of a country is the national income minus any consumption done either by the private sector, C, or the government, G. Now, to understand better what we have in this expression, let's take the definition of national income and let's replace it with our definition that includes the GDP of a country. National income is equal to GDP plus these net factor payments that we defined before. We keep consumption and government spending in the equation at the end with negative signs. And now we simply take the definition of GDP and we include now the four components of GDP into this expression, which are consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. and we leave the other three terms exactly the same way as they were: net factor payments, consumption, government spending with negative sign. Now, if we look at this expression, we can cancel government spending, we can cancel consumption because they're both with positive and negative sign. And we have an expression that says the saving of a country is equal to the investment plus this term, which is the sum of net exports and net factor payments. Now, it happens to be that the sum of net exports and net factor payments is what we call the current account of a country. So we get an expression that says the saving of a country is equal to the investment plus the current account. And if we had the special case of an economy that is closed, where there's no exports or no imports, we learn that saving has to be equal to investment because the current account has to be equal to 0. So this is the relationship we were looking after. We see that in any economy at any point in time, this is all an identity. It has to be that for the case of a closed economy, saving has to be equal to investment, and this will be true for the world as a whole. The world is a closed system. In an open economy where there are flows of income and flows of trade and capital across borders, saving will be equal to investment plus the current account. Now, just to make sure that the logic behind this expression, that for a closed system, saving and investment have to be equal, is a very simple exercise where we have an economy represented by two individuals and a couple of transactions, where I would like you to think about what is the GDP of the country, what is the consumption, the investment, and the saving, both for each individual and for the whole economy, and then just check the saving is equal to investment. And this should give you an intuition of why, in the real world, saving has to be equal to investment at any point in time.